Call the meeting to order and approval of the minutes.
Move to accept.
Wait, I'm sorry, roll call.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right.
Bueller.
Mr. Sasso.
here.
Mr. Los.
Here.
Mr. Evans.
Here.
Mr. Robinette. Have you heard from him?
Yes, Mike said he was not going to make it today.
Ah,
Okay. And then Ms. McCoy. Ms. Mack. And we have Ms. Jenkins also today.
Okay,
I'm
so,
going to apologize in advance. I've got a client that I know is going to call, and I absolutely have to step out and take this call.
okay,
I'll be as brief as I can.
well, we do have a quorum, so that's good. In case we decide to vote on anything, I don't know if this is a voting meeting or not. We're just
yeah,
still
we'll
discussing.
go holler
pretty
at you
much.
if we need to vote on something.
So approval of the meeting minutes for,
Move to accept.
okay,
Second.
Thirsies.
There you go.
First and the
All those in favor, we just said aye, I think.
yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
So with that, the meeting minutes are approved, and we're going on to review current ordinances related to e-bikes, scooters, and micromobility devices. And I think we definitely started this process off. I'm gonna give it to you guys to take it over again. And then towards the end, Kelsey's gonna have go over the Keystone report for us. Or did you wanna do that first, Kelsey?
I think we can talk about it now because it might be relevant to the overall conversation. I don't know if we're
Okay.
able to pull it up, but
Yeah, I could pull that up.
okay.
And Kelsey, what are we talking about?
So there was a report, if you guys remember, you may have actually been there a couple years ago. We had a community conversation regarding the beach, and there was a facilitator. Do you remember that?
Yes.
The reason I wanted to bring that to the group's attention is because there was several mentions of use of e-bikes and things on the beach. So I thought it might be good for this group to discuss. Most of it was summarized in the comments that the facilitator recorded, saying, you know, people want to have e-bikes on the beach. They want them to slow down. You know, people who can't paddle very well, they would appreciate having them. There were several comments from the public that was recorded in this document. I just thought it would be a good point for discussion to bring up.
And I remember that meeting, and I read through that, and it just kind of, in my head, the summary of it was exactly what Kelsey said, that there were concerns about speed and other things, and I think there might have been maybe one or two that kind of were like against, but seemed like most of the comments were in favor of just under better control. You know, basically what we've been talking about
Yeah.
for the most part, right? Did I miss anything?
So Tanja, can you just search by the word bike?
It was mentioned above, it was in the,
Yeah, it was both in the commentary as well as these comment numbers.
No electric bikes, etc. on the beach.
Yeah, so the way that this was set up is he took the comment and then he put the number of people that had put like a sticky note or an asterisk next to it. So that one, someone said that, but it doesn't look like there was anything next to it. But yeah, there were several comments just about e-bikes, so just more input from the public.
Well, there's another one, lifeguards
Station.
telling e-bikes to slow down,
Yeah.
et cetera, too. But nobody voiced against the e-bikes. They were just pretty much slow them down, get them under control, according to that.
And then something else I wanted to bring up is somebody suggested e-bikes for, or education for rentals, and that's something that this group had discussed last time.
Yeah. And it says better bike paths. So we've kind of been talking about that. So I think we're right on task with what their recommendations were so far. Looks like.
And if I could, and Kelsey, I don't want to stop you from doing what you're doing, but just talking about bike paths, remind me, and as we're doing this, I don't know if you guys got a chance to read Bob Day's notes, but he was talking about, and I forgot what they call them, but they're like chevrons on the road that say that that road's available for bikes.
Yeah.
And he was talking about putting them on, if I'm not mistaken, if I read it correctly, on Minutemen downtown to try and encourage people to use the road in the downtown instead of the sidewalk, and to make both the e-bikes as well as the cars more aware that there might be bikes on the road in that downtown section. And I think it was Minutemen, it might have been somewhere else down there too, but just wanted to make sure that we got that as we're talking about your stuff, Kelsey.
And it does mention here about homeowners insurance doesn't cover them. E-bikes are another concern. Standard homeowners insurance policies consider them vehicles and exclude them from liability coverage. So we have had some conversation about whether we think there should be some insurance involved. But again, I'm going to turn this over to you guys at this point, and just you can have a conversation about it.
Can I pick up? You just handed it off to the panel here. I'd like to ask a question. How do people feel about this? Bicycles and e-bikes and e-equipment have to be treated the same. Now, if we were to say, let's take the person's suggestion or the thought process is that we wanted to have some insurance for the e-stuff. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just hypothetically. Does that mean that bicyclists would also have to have insurance if you treat them all the same? Or can you carve out?
That's a legal question, I think. I really don't have an answer for that. I assume we would have to, because by statute, by Florida statute, they're treated the same. I think what we've been doing so far is treating them the same.
Exactly.
And that whole insurance thing is way above my forte, so.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we do that. I'm just trying to point of order. Is that treating them the same, or can that be a carve out? It's just a question. Maybe we should seek legal guidance on that.
I don't think that's right, just because somebody said it.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we do it. I'm asking.
Those are just comments. Who knows?
I'm just addressing the comment. Are you even allowed to do that?
Yeah, and I don't know. We're going to have some public comment. Let's just let us get through this. I don't know for sure how insurance affects what we do or not. I think somewhere down the road, both here in Cocoa Beach and statewide and probably countrywide, I think insurance is going to be an issue. But right now, it's kind of an unknown. If is that all that you had? If so, then we have.
I just was asking for clarification because we mentioned it. I'm just asking if that's even something that can be done.
Okay, Tim.
Yeah, so you can get your golf cart insured with your homeowner's insurance. So you would certainly be able to get your e-bike insured with it as well, I would think.
You would think so.
I mean, that's one of the policies that they're putting in place for the golf course, is that if you use your personal golf cart on the golf course, you can, as long as it's insured, and typically you get it insured through your homeowner's insurance.
Yeah.
So
I would admit, I think you can insure just about anything if you're willing to go through whatever you got to go through to do it. I would put that a note on that for the commission and legal to dig into it deeper. I don't know if that's something we want to get into here, because honestly, I have no clue.
Nobody here knows. It's just it's a question.
You want to go ahead?
Okay, I'll continue. So one of the key factors that we wrapped up the last meeting was speed limits if you're on a sidewalk. We spent a lot of time talking about reasonable speed.
We came up with 12 miles an hour.
And then we came up with 12 to 15. I was going to propose.
Actually, I think we ended up saying 12, and we agreed on that.
Okay, that's
right?
what I wanted to say. I think 15.
Well, I'm biased, so I think that's right. I know it was 12 to 15.
That's what I remember is the range.
Okay.
I agree.
If we want to make sure and finalize that today, let's do it. I'll make a motion that'd be 12 miles an hour.
But when you say sidewalk, I want to expand it to all combined use areas. That's going to cover the beach also.
Okay, that's a good thought.
That's why I kept saying all combined use areas.
I'll amend that, make that motion then.
Okay.
I like
Do we
that.
have a technical definition of a combined use area? Do you know, in our ordinance? I just want to make sure whatever language we use is consistent.
Yeah.
There is actual jargon for that.
I'm not sure we have a technical definition, but we could add that as a definition. definition with this.
Yeah, there is, somewhere we've read in one of the documents, there was a
Yeah.
definition for shared usage. I don't remember the words, but there is, it's out there. There's
And we,
out there.
we can put that title and then put in parentheses, shared use like sidewalks, beach, maybe elsewhere where they might be combined pedestrians, bicycles, and e-bikes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that any areas shared by, can it be as, e-bikes are similar and pedestrians, the speed should be limited to 12 miles an hour.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right?
Opposed? 3 votes yes. Good.
That was way too easy.
It doesn't have to be complex,
I
you
think
know.
we had to
What's that?
receive public comment before the final vote.
Oh, any public comment?
You already voted on
Yeah, we can go back, though. You might change your mind. You never know.
it. Probably not.
Y'all, anything?
I would just raise one thing. If you remember last week when we talked about this, and I really appreciate this committee, I've learned a lot here. But we talked about enforcement and how do you enforce it when a bicyclist doesn't have to have any type of ID. And I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention that there is a precedent here in Florida. If I put a trolling motor on my canoe, I've got to register it. If I paddle it human,
Right,
I don't, right?
Right.
If I put it on my kayak, I register, human, I don't. So there's a precedent to requiring motorized vehicles, even though they're otherwise treated the same as human-powered bicycles, to be registered. And that would be, as far as I can see, the only way you will ever be able to enforce any regulation.
Good point.
Put
Thank you.
in place.
thanks. And we did discuss some of that, and I think what we decided to do, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what we decided to do is not do any of that at this point and move ahead with what we did do, speed limits, et cetera, and see how that works.
Yeah, because, I mean, were you the speaker that commented about bicyclists are not required to have IDs, therefore they could lie to the police?
Yeah.
Do you realize that's an arrestable offense?
Oh, I'm
That
sure
if
it
you
is.
lie to the police, that's resisting arrest without violence. We've got a 70-year history of not registering bicycles in this town.
Right.
I prefer to tell the cops the truth, and I've yet to be arrested for it.
Yeah, I think,
When I saw 2 bikes collide and the cops got there, I don't think anybody had a driver's license, but I don't think either one of them chose to lie to the police.
right.
So I think that problem self-regulates, because when you hear about Earl getting arrested for lying to the cops, it kind of changes everybody else's behavior. Yes, ma'am.
And I would say also, you have to be very careful because a lot of people handicapped are using these devices to get around, so to make them register something could add another little, hiccup into that
Right.
process. So they do talk about these devices being used for mobility, for people who have some limited mobility and may have some type of legal, reason to be
Right.
using this as a mobility device, so.
I
Then you
think,
start talking about a motor could be on a wheelchair, it could be on anything.
Yeah, worse than that. Good point.
yeah, I think it would be helpful to make sure in the notes that go to the commissioners that let them know that we did discuss this and we chose not to pursue it, at least at this time. Some of these are, just like the golf carts, taking baby steps to see how it works. And then, certainly come back and look at it in a year or however long we need to see if there's anything we need to tweak.
And there is the voluntary registration process with the police department. I think you can currently register your bike in case it gets stolen or something.
For theft and other things, yeah.
And never, ever, ever call them and ask them what your son's registration number is. They will not call you back. But I've taken that up with the correct authorities.
So,
So don't minute that, please.
all right,
Don't
so,
want to get a ticket.
so we're on a roll. What else? Anything else? So we talked insurance, speed limit, registration. I would like to address Bob's comments about whatever they're called, what are they, not chevrons, but something else.
Sharrows. I
Yeah.
never heard that term before.
I never heard it
It's
either, but-
shared arrows.
Oh, okay.
Sharrows.
Oh,
Shared
okay.
arrows.
I call them chevrons, but,
Well,
Which is-
maybe that's another word for it, but
yeah.
he's
But
using
I'd
shared
like to
arrows.
see them, at least on the two blocks of Minutemen, because it kind of makes sense there. You know, folks are going to ride on the sidewalk, but I think his thought process is, through conversations, is that will encourage them maybe to ride on the street where, so there are not as many on the sidewalk, and maybe, and that way cars will look out for them as well, knowing that that's a shared pathway through there. And it might get the cars to slow down on downtown Minutemen a little bit too, which wouldn't be a bad idea.
Bob who, Torres?
No, Bob Day.
Okay.
Bob Day.
He was here at our last meeting, and he sent me some notes. He called me and sent me some notes, and I passed them on to y'all.
I think that's a good idea. It's sensible to me. But I would say that there's parts of Minuteman that if there's parked cars and there's islands in the middle of the street, it gets extremely narrow. It's hard to get a car through that pathway.
Right.
So if you put a lane with sharrows in it, it makes perfect sense to me, but it's already hard to even get a car through there. You got an island and a parked car, and it's like really squeezed.
Right, but all it does is slow cars down, letting
Yeah.
them know that if a bike's in that lane, that bike's got the right of way.
Yeah.
You can't just like whiz by it.
Right.
And I would
That's a good
also
idea.
say and let me just take it one step further. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm trouble finding stuff, but I think he was talking from Minutemen to, I think, 4th Street on Brevard Avenue. That might be a good
Yeah.
place to put them as well.
Yeah.
And possibly maybe on Brevard going to North 4th Street to South 4th Street, because that's a nice, kind of back road thoroughfare, and yet a lot of bike traffic there and a lot of car traffic. So, and especially on the north side, I'm trying to remember, I don't know if there's full sidewalks there or not. I don't think there are.
No.
So that would be, and I know most people ride on the street there. And
Yeah, that's what Mike was saying at the last meeting.
yeah, so I think I would like to just add that on the 2 blocks of Minutemen, as well as Brevard Avenue from 4th Street north to 4th Street south.
Yeah, he specifically said
4th Street.
post
South.
office. Post office is 4th Street
That's 4th Street north.
And he specifically called out First South. We could go further than that, but his
There's a-
call out was First South.
There's a bike path there. From Minuteman
To 4th
to
Street
2nd
south.
Street is an asphalt bike path next to the Australian pines. And then it turns into a rather wide sidewalk all the way down at least to Freedom 7.
The block between First and Minuteman is concrete. It's like sidewalk.
Yeah,
After that, I think it's what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I could see the Sharrows from 2nd Street on down, because that's a bunch of driveways and sidewalk.
right.
But without going into too much detail, I don't put Sharrows all over town, whatever. It doesn't.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it'd be easier, because if you're on a sidewalk, and then all of a sudden, there's only like a block out of the 4, it just seems to be more, in my mind, it just seems to make it easier and again, possibly slow traffic down as well.
Yeah, okay. And like you say, if you're on Brevard zipping along southbound, you're probably not going to jump up onto the bike path, because you only got 2 blocks of bike path.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's my motion for the 2 blocks of Minutemen and the 4th Street north to 4th Street south on Brevard, and Sharrows/chevrons in the road for shared vehicle and e-bike and bikes. Bicycles too, yeah.
And I stepped all over your motion. I didn't realize you were in the middle of a motion.
Oh, no, that's all right. That's fine. That's it, pretty much. You guys want me to repeat it, or you get it?
You know?
I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
So that's my motion.
I'll second
Got a second. Before we vote, any public comment? Yes.
Yeah, the definition of Sharrow. So is a Shero is different than a Chevron. A Chevron, I think, is what you're talking about, is an actual bike lane with those arrows in it. I think Bob, Dave, from what I gathered from what you said, is sharing the road, because there's no way to put a bike lane on Minute.
Correct, not a bike lane.
So it's you're
Shared.
sharing the entire lane.
Correct.
With a bike. Whether
Correct.
It's e-bike or a bike.
Yep,
And so that signage, yeah, it needs to be on the road, but also it's actual signage.
yes. Whatever the state requires for those and whatever the state formally
I just wanna
calls
be
them.
clear is
Yep.
what you're
Yeah,
talking
thank
about.
you.
It's not just it's not a bike lane
Correct.
down Brevard, but I think, in my opinion, all of Brevard should be. I mean, why just go to 4th Street and 4th Street? Because 4th Street north goes all the way to Ace Hardware, basically.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just another block. and a half,
Yeah.
So, but it is what it-
and then past 4th Street South,
that goes another
curves around.
blocks.
Yeah, so actually, that's not a bad idea. I would amend that to include all of Brevard Avenue. So it's another couple of blocks, basically.
I think that's a good
One on
idea.
the south side, one on the north side, and maybe a couple as it curves around on the north side.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, you guys are going in the middle of a vote, so go ahead.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Yes, Tanya?
So,
Tony, something like that, is what you're thinking?
Yeah, exactly.
I've talked about
Yeah.
Torres and several people within the city and talked about, within the committee. It does look like Brevard is a good place for us to do something. But I did suggest that we maybe do like a study, have a formal study done so we can get the best bang for our buck in terms of whether we do that or we do a multi-use path that can connect from Minuteman, Brevard, A1A. There's already some multi-use paths out there on A1A, so having that connectivity from Brevard may be something that, we need to kind of have more of an engineering type study done on
And
it. What could be done?
yeah, and I don't think we're opposed to that. I think what we're doing is giving you some general, very basic, here's what we think would work. And certainly, I don't want to speak for them, but in my mind, if engineering and city staff come up with, a way to tweak that and make it better, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it's not ultimately going to be our decision anyway. It's going to be the commission's. And if we don't like something, we can be at the commission meeting when they make the final decision and say, wait a minute, that stinks. Or, oh, great, thanks for improving it.
Speaking of which, I'm out of the country for the commission meeting. Are you available?
When is that?
It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
I thought
Yeah,
they were always Thursdays.
They
It's-
are.
no, this is a
It's
special
moved-
meeting
It's moved
for
to,
this.
it's moved to tomorrow.
Oh, I will be here tomorrow.
yeah.
Okay.
So, and I'm planning on being there too, so. So good. So is that okay with you guys?
Yes.
Yes.
So we give them the basic idea we'd like, and what we're talking about, and Byron pulled up a picture, it's like in the road, you see the chevrons pointing in that direction, and then there's a little bicycle underneath, and everybody knows that means you share that roadway, not a bike path, but a roadway, the whole roadway with the bicycle. If a bicycle's in there, they actually have the right of way, just like a car would.
Okay.
So you can't get behind them and start honking and go, get out of the road, which I've had people do to me.
Yeah, and you see them all over different cities.
Yeah,
So part of me wonders, and I'm sorry to kind of backtrack, if possibly the suggestion should be amended to say something like improve bicycle access and safety on Brevard Ave by putting the roadway markings or a multi-use, extending the multi-use path. Because you wouldn't want to put the roadway markings and then the next year do a whole giant pathway.
right.
So
Yeah.
maybe it's kind of, here's a couple of suggestions. I don't know if you guys want to change it to that or if you're happy
I
with what
like
you
that.
had.
I like that. If there's space for a pathway, I think that's the best way, because that takes that traffic and moves it off the travel
Yeah.
way and puts it in a dedicated lane where there's no interaction. But if
Right.
it's not wide enough, then you put the marking, because we're all sharing the road. But if
Right.
there's room for a pathway, the pathway, I think, is the best way.
And pathway as opposed to a sidewalk, which typically we think of a pathway, a bike ped path that's wider. So, yes,
So maybe that would be determined by the study that. Tom
yeah,
just
so
suggested.
I think we're in agreement. If you can just alter that language,
Yes.
it's okay?
Yep.
Good.
Good comment.
See how easy that stuff is? What a team.
So we have a demonstration today, so I was thinking maybe around 4, we maybe go have our demonstration. What do you think?
Demonstration?
Well, before we
We're gonna-
voted
Got
on,
signs for us?
yeah,
No.
Not that tight.
Yes.
I thought we were gonna demo different speeds before we voted on it, but if anybody's interested in perception of speed, we can
Oh,
run
I
through a
wouldn't
few.
mind.
Did
I
you bring
wouldn't
your
mind.
e-bike?
What's that?
Did you bring your e-bike?
Yeah.
I'm always happy to do stuff like that, so yeah. Is there anything else? We covered a lot before. Is there anything else we need to fine tune
I'll
or
throw a
add?
couple things out. It's in the comments from, I guess, Bob or somebody, and it's also very common in the other ordinances that when we write our ordinance, that we put something in there about provide an audible signal if you're overtaking someone.
Yeah, pass on the left, audible signal.
Right. If that was being done universally, we probably wouldn't even be sitting here. That is so basic. So I think
Yeah.
because it's not being done, and we are sitting here, I think that needs to be
I
incorporated.
thought we did that, but let's make sure, let's make it formal right now. So go ahead and make that motion.
Okay, I make the motion that the surviving ordinance would have language to the effect that when a faster vehicle is overtaking a slower vehicle or pedestrian traffic, that you pass on the left and provide an audible signal as you overtake that other party,
Or prior to overtaking. How's that?
prior to overtake, something to that
Okay,
effect.
yeah, I'll second that.
All in favor, sure, why not?
There you go.
Aye.
Done.
One last thing that I had noted that we discussed last week was the rental businesses, and the group wanted to possibly discuss a number, like a maximum number of rental businesses, or I think that, I don't know if that's relevant, but. I
Yeah,
have it marked down.
we did discuss that. I don't know if we came up with anything final, though.
We did, and a lot of other towns have done that. That's common. We don't have to do that, but that's common with other people.
Maybe we just kind of put it out there that we support looking at some number limitations initially on the rentals to see how it works, and give like 2 or 3 with certain number each over the first year or 2 to see how it works, and if it works good, then they can gradually increase. Maybe that's one way to do it. Certainly, aside from that, I think we did talk, and I think just to make sure we did, that all these companies teach their customers the proper precautions, give them a pamphlet or a card that's got all these regulations on there, and then teach them individually every single client before they get out on a bike.
I think that's a great idea. It's like if any of us load an app, sign up for anything in the world, you have to agree to terms and conditions. And it's 20 pages long and nobody ever reads it. You click the box because you just want to do your business, but in there is all the stuff you just agreed to. So a lot of
They
these,
give a cheat sheet too. It says
Yeah.
audible signal, pass on the left, 12 miles
something,
an hour.
and a lot of them are unmanned. A lot of it's electronic. You go up and you just rent your device like this. There's no human interaction, but there should be something on there that would educate you of what the local rules are, how to conduct yourself, what the speed limits are, and you have to accept it. Just like you have to accept anything if you try to do anything. You got to take the terms and conditions. So I think that's an excellent idea. I think they can be very key players in trying to control this issue inside the city if the education
Right.
is provided by
So-
those companies.
3 things about rentals. One is the number. One is how their education program, and I would say the third is actually placement of the vehicles themselves. Because I know I go to other places
Yeah.
and they're laying in the street, across sidewalks, all over the place, and that's
Yeah.
bad.
That's
That's
a very-
dangerous for
Yeah.
bikes, e-bikes,
It's a tripping hazard
pedestrians.
for pedestrians.
Well, if it makes you feel better, on the bottom it says, "I've fallen, please pick me up." All the ones I saw were laying on their side.
Yeah,
Which nobody.
yeah.
including
I've picked
neighbors.
up a dozen of them just a couple of months ago in Key West. You know, it's like, come on. But somehow or another, I don't know how you fix that problem, but somehow, maybe, I don't know. I hate to be negative, but maybe it's finding the company. If we keep finding them laying on their sides and not stored properly, or maybe they have racks that they have to go in. Because I've seen bicycle rental companies that actually have racks. You can't get it out of the rack until you do your app. And you keep paying unless it goes back in one of their racks, an electronic signal. So maybe that's it.
I think that can be part of the solution, but you can also ride the thing to somebody's house. Because you're visiting somebody at a house, they're not gonna have a rack, but it still has to be stored, not on the sidewalk, not in the street,
But if you're doing
it's
that, you're
part of it.
paying for it until you put it back.
Until you put it back,
So,
yeah.
so maybe you rent it for a week and,
It
that.
could be parked 20 times around town before it ever gets back into that rack. But you're right, the rack is a piece of it, but there should be some language that explains why, for that week while it isn't in the rack, what can you do with that?
Right, excuse me.
It's part of it.
Yeah.
There's another thing we discussed, is not only how many companies are legally allowed to do business inside city limits by renting this equipment, but also how many pieces, what's the population of pieces out on the street? I don't know if we know enough about it to put a number. I don't know how you would set that number, but some of the ordinances we read, they've set numbers like only 500 pieces in the city.
Right.
I don't know how you do that, but that's another thing that's been discussed.
But nobody's expressed that the quantity of scooters is a problem.
Yeah. Only because I don't know if, I don't know how many people are actually renting them now and how many they've got, but I think
Yeah.
as, we know it's gonna expand. I can't imagine it not. I mean, I'm just seeing more and more all the time.
I would be,
I don't know.
yeah, I don't think, myself, I don't know, I don't have any data to come up with a number, so if you ask me to put a number out there, I don't know how would I put the number out there? But I would be more interested in renting or putting a number, even though I can't put a number on it, on the rental fleet. The rental fleet is limited to this number. As far as the private ownership, I don't think that should be capped. Private ownership in the city is private ownership.
Yeah.
But on the rental fleet, you could control how many rented pieces are available to the city.
So let me ask, do we want to dig into that now, or do we want to kind of maybe let the commissioners know that we've had this discussion? Maybe we don't have any recommendations now other than to, revisit this as if it becomes a problem.
I think, I'm talking about the population of rented devices in the city. I would put that in the same vein as, can you control how many companies there are?
Right, but do we want to try and do that
Yeah,
now, or do we want to wait and see how it rolls in the next year or two?
So far, nothing we've done has gotten commission approval yet, right?
Correct.
So we've got a few open items out there. Let's see how they go over with the commission. Nobody's expressed that there's too many scooters kicking around town.
Right.
So I don't know why we would try to quantify it when we don't even know if it's a problem.
I tend to
I'm not-
agree with that. I
I've
would
not
just-
heard it.
Yeah, I would just say that, let them make sure they're aware that we had the conversation and, we just don't see it's an issue now. It could be, and it may need to be addressed later, but for the time being, we didn't see it as a problem yet.
I agree.
Okay, good?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. It's just you were bringing up a bunch of things. I threw out the population thing because it's all in there.
Okay.
Maybe that's phase two. Maybe
Okay.
that's, if it's ever required, it'll be down the line.
Any public comment on any of that? Hearing none. Anything else, guys? You want to bring up? I think I've covered everything I had, and I think we covered everything Bob had.
I got one more thing. Riding on the road is kind of unrestricted. Everything we've talked about is on shared pathways, but if you're on the road surface, you just have to follow the rules of the road. So if we're going to have an ordinance, we should make that clear that this is for shared pathways, On the road, you just follow the rules of the road. So the ordinance doesn't dictate that.
Whatever
You
applies,
follow
yeah.
speed limits that are posted, you're supposed to stop at stop signs, which nobody does, even on bicycles. But we have to put it into that group. So if you're on the road, follow the rules of the road. If you're on the shared pathways, you do this.
I have to, this is just commentary as a pedal bike rider. Many of us don't stop at stop signs, but we at least slow down.
Oh, you look both ways to see if you're safe.
I have decided I don't want a ticket while I'm on the task force, and I've actually started stopping it.
So.
I've seen enough grief on Facebook that it's like, okay, I'll do it the right way.
Yeah, so I think that's in there that we're asking the commission to make sure that any bikes on roadways are following all the rules of the road as they're legally required to do. Anything else?
I can't think of anything else.
We'll open a public comment. You all want
I
to?
wanted to say one more thing. So tomorrow's commission meeting is focused on golf carts. We can have one more meeting on this if you guys feel that we pretty much got our overall overarching statements out there. Chelsea and Sonia and I will put that together and bring it back to the next meeting on the 24th, and then I'll take that forward to the commission as the e-bike mobility piece.
I think we should see a draft of something written with definitions in it. I mean, an actual draft of what would go in front of the commission for a discussion. So this is all just conversation, but I think there should actually be words put to paper, definitions, rules, blah, 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 and then we can read that and make sure we did the right thing.
And that could be super quick, Tanja. I mean, just basically put it out, we'll look at it, and, here's another option. We have the meeting already set.
Yeah.
Or do we? Yeah, we do.
Yep.
So if we don't see any major changes, maybe we don't even need to show up. We just all online, I think, let you know we're good. Can we do that?
You just can't reply all. I'll send me an email, but you can't reply all.
May I suggest that if we put something together and the group is expressing opinions, it may also be appropriate to ask the public's opinion on that.
Okay, so we'll have a meeting. We'll go ahead and have a meeting. Hopefully it'll be really quick.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And it says the next meeting is next Monday. Is there a time for the next meeting?
3:30.
3:30?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then let's open up to public comment. Last public comment, folks. Why don't you come on up, I think, because they're recording, I think, right?
Yeah.
Thanks. And thank you all for being here for this.
Well, I really also want to thank you. You're doing an amazing job, and have actually changed my opinion on the importance of supporting the electric vehicles here and, supporting our tourism industry and all of that. So I think you're doing great there. I just wanted to tell you, very strongly feel great about the idea of the Sharrows on Brevard, which is an area that I ride all the time. I just don't know if you're thinking, when you talked about widening it, that they literally just within the last 6 months repaved the sidewalk on most of the stretch from 4th Street further south. And I don't think anytime in the near future that's going to be widened because it was just done. So putting them on the road would be really valuable because there isn't that much traffic to begin with, but letting people know that here's a great way to get off of the main drag, get off of A1A, and be in a safer place would be awesome. So I do think that that's something that I'm really excited that you brought up. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Tim? Come on, you got to say something.
I'll say something. Absolutely. I mean, give me an opportunity, right? The microphone, here we go. E-bikes, bikes, basically have been defined as the same thing. The issue that I see, I drive Minutemen many times a day, almost as many as you, Byron. Although I probably go a little further, Anyhow, every time I'm driving down there, there's an e-bike or a single wheel. What do you?
Yeah.
One wheeler,
wheelie. That hasn't been addressed. Those go 40 miles an hour too.
Well, and I apologize to interrupt, but they are all
Are they-
part of what we've been talking
Yeah,
about.
that's the
Okay,
12
good.
mile an hour
Yeah.
speed limit.
All the
Micro-
e-vehicles.
Unicycle,
Micro
one-wheeler.
mobility
Gotcha.
device.
All right,
Micro-
so my opinion or concept of all this is only one thing, and that's the speed they're going. There isn't anything else that is, really negative about them except the speed that they go. And they're definitely going over 30 miles an hour on a regular basis. And sometimes they're, you talk about educating, and that's what we had to do, educating on the rules of the road. Well, it's how to ride a bike. Well, if you're riding a bike, you're not just on a sidewalk, and you probably shouldn't be on a sidewalk actually, riding a bike. I mean, if you go and cross driveways, which way are you going to look, when you're pulling out? For example, on A1A. The reason you go with the traffic when you're on a bike is because people that are pulling out of their driveways or pulling into that lane of traffic are looking the way the traffic's coming. If you're coming the other direction, you're going to pull right out in front of you. And that's, what I mean? That's an issue. But that's rules of the road. That's where people have to understand, hey, if I'm going to get on this vehicle, whether it's a bike or a golf cart or whatever, I should know what those rules are. And so I don't know, we can't, baby everybody. It is what it is. And, we can do our best, but, inevitably something's going to happen. But that's, educate as much as you can. I've spoken enough. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Guys, all good?
One thing just popped into my head. We haven't designated any sidewalks in the city that are pedestrian only. I don't,
By statute, in Florida, you can ride on sidewalks, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we asked the officer that the other day.
Yeah,
You're discouraged from it. If there's a bike path, you're supposed to use it.
okay, I did not know that we were.
I'm not a lawyer, but
Bid.
I've read that numerous times and heard that numerous times, so.
Yeah, and I asked the police officer
Yeah,
when he was here that day.
that's right.
Now,
Okay.
keep in mind,
Okay.
anything over
I-
40 inches is considered a bike path too, so it gets complicated. I happen to know that from being a DOT contractor.
Yeah,
So the one down Minuteman is call it a combination path. The ones running along but not on A1A are probably bike paths too. But when they repaved A1A, they did mark out a northbound and a southbound bike path
Right.
on the road.
yep.
But what were you thinking, that we need to designate some sidewalks as
No, we
pedestrian only?
didn't, no, I didn't suggest that. I said,
wasn't.
okay,
Yeah.
we never discussed it. I would rather we make a conscious decision to just leave it 100% than just leave it nebulous. And I'm gonna push back on
We did
this.
discuss it, though.
Okay, I'm gonna push back on this, because a lot of the stuff that Tanja gave us, cities have designated sidewalks as non-bicycle, e-bike sidewalks. They've done that. They wrote it up as the downtown district between A and B is pedestrian only. They've done that. We've read it. You read it.
Maybe they
Key West is
can.
an example.
Okay,
But
so all I'm saying is, do we
Right.
want to
Before-
talk about that, or we just
before-
want to make it 100% everything?
We did talk about it before we, and again, I'm the last person to dig in on memory, but as I remember, one of our very first meetings, we were talking about bicycles on Minutemen downtown.
Yes.
And we agreed at that time to just kind of let it ride, see how all this kind of works out. And after that meeting was when we talked about the statutes, and the cop said, basically, you can write on anything, and we talked about the statute, what we thought it said. You may be able to carve out sidewalks legally and do that, but I'm pretty sure it was our first meeting, we talked about the only place we really thought about it being necessary was downtown Minutemen.
Yeah.
And we kind of backed off of that and said, let's just see
That's
how.
where your Sharrows or Chevrons will
Right.
encourage
Hopefully
people.
that will,
Yeah, that's voluntary.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
voluntary. You can
Right.
go out there if you choose to, but you
Right.
don't have to go out there.
and I think part of what I look at this, and, I know Tim's left, but, all this stuff evolves as you do it. So you do something and you kind of see how it works, and if something's not working, then you come back and tweak it. If you feel there are some areas where we need to do it, we can certainly do it and at least discuss it. But I thought we did and decided to back off.
I think the couple reasons was because of the low incidence that we had of actual someone being harmed. And also the fact that if you limit the sidewalk, then you have to think about underage children or handicap again. You know, when you say you can't do it on the sidewalk, for certain people they may not be comfortable to go out into A1A and navigate that.
Oh, I agree 100%. The handicap is a special category, and that is unlimited. Nobody limits that. Nobody says you cannot ride your wheelchair on the sidewalk. Nobody does that. So that's unlimited. You don't mess with that. I was only saying that if we're making a conscious decision to open up 100% of the sidewalks, yes or no? And if we've made the conscious decision to do that, that's the end of the
They
subject.
were open before we had our first meeting, so we are not changing anything.
But the information we were given allows designation of certain areas, and we've chosen to not do that.
Let's simplify
We've chosen
this.
to not do that.
Do you want to limit any sidewalks? Just trying to simplify it so we can move on.
I think the most relevant area would be the downtown area.
Right.
The most relevant area.
But do you want
So-
to? And let me ask Byron, do you want to?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
I want less legislation, less rules.
I have mixed feelings about it, but I'm leaning towards not doing it until and if it becomes a problem. So I'm kind of a no as well.
Yeah, and your example is valid for discussion, but the foot traffic in Key West is a lot different than what we experience around here.
It's
And-
much higher.
Yeah, and they were prudent to outlaw e-bikes in congested pedestrian areas. I don't
Yeah.
think we've run into that yet. When I got up to Minuteman, the beach end of Minuteman during the air show, you absolutely had to walk your bike.
Yeah.
I mean, just some of it is physics, and I hate to use the common sense word, but I mean, it's so crowded, you can't physically bike.
Yeah. I mean, you might have some knucklehead on a scooter trying to weave in between, but, you know, it's pretty rare. And when it's that crowded, that's my gut feeling is I get it. I mean, we have a business right there on Minuteman. And we had somebody get knocked down. So I have very serious.
That happened?
I have very serious concerns about it, but at the same time, it seems to be so rare an occurrence, and 90% of the folks that I do see on bicycles or e-vehicles on the sidewalk are being pretty courteous. In fact, I've seen several that just get off their bikes and walk them, and we've got bike racks along there, so it's encouraging bike riding. So, and I want to encourage bike riding of any sort. So I'm reluctant to say, no, you can't ride them on the sidewalks downtown, because then maybe fewer people will come downtown on their vehicles and try and drive instead. So
Yeah.
I'd rather hold off
Yeah, that's a
and
good
wait
point.
and see if it becomes a real problem, a safety problem, and I get it. People are getting hurt on those things. They're hurting people sometimes, but that's happening all over. So I'd rather not do anything now, but, at the same time, I would like to let the commission know that we'd like to revisit this in a year or two and see if anything needs tweaking.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm fine with that position. I just wanted to go on the record as saying that we just need to formalize that we're not carving out any areas in the city. It's just 100%. That's all.
Okay. I think that's in the record, right? Yep, okay,
It's on the recording as well.
good,
Good.
all right. So what I like to do is go around. Anything else, Byron?
Well, if anybody wants it, we'll do a speed demo, and you'll be surprised.
Yeah, I'd like to
I mean-
see that.
Tim thinks he sees stuff going 30 miles an hour, but 30 miles an hour is absolutely booking it.
Yeah, and I have actually measured folks on A1A just to see, and I've got them at 25. I couldn't quite figure out it's 25, between 25 and 30, but somewhere in there. But anything else?
Nothing to add. I think I've seen vehicles going 30. I think I've seen
Okay.
30.
We'll do that. Tanja, do you have anything else?
No.
Kelsey?
Yeah.
Okay, with that, we're going to adjourn, and we'll go outside and do the test. Is that good? Thank you.